Hi, good morning. My name is Ayoku Fishala. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing well. So today we're going to be talking about understanding your identity as a child of God. We're going to be talking about God's nature, and one prayer before we actually begin is that God really helps us to get to know the real him, and not what the world is trying to portray him as. And just edify our spirits as we dive into this. In Jesus' mighty name I pray, amen. Okay, so we're going to be analyzing Genesis. So we're just gonna get straight into it. The first question I asked basically when I was studying for this sermon is, who is God? And I feel like we can't really understand who God is if we don't really go back to the beginning, when everything had not been made and before even man was made. Okay, so in the beginning, Genesis chapter 1 verse 1, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. Okay, so in the beginning there was God, there was nothing. Okay, and it says, it goes forth to say, like, the earth was without form and void. So in the beginning was God. He's an infinite God. He is what we call self-existent. Okay, nobody created God, but we know here that there were heavenly bodies existing at that moment, because we're going to dive really deep into it and we'll get to see what had been going on even before the manifestation of creation. So there was heavenly bodies present. Even Jesus was present with God, and God in himself, without the creation present, created earth and he created heaven. Okay, so when he created earth, when he created it, it was without form. So there was no form and there was nothing in it, and there was darkness inside the earth, and the darkness was upon the face of the deep. So the darkness was deep in earth. Okay, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Okay, so there was earth, there was void, but there was waters, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the earth. Okay, so one thing, as I was writing, just journaling, as I was studying, the Spirit of God made me know that God in himself, when he was creating, was in a form of meditation. So it functioned in the spirit, because God is a spirit. And that's why you see here that he says, like, God created something and his spirit moved upon the face of the waters. So God, being a spirit, created the world in spirit. I said here that infinite power, God is infinite power because he came before anything ever was. So he is Lord above all. Okay, even before the heavenly bodies, before the creation of heaven and earth, God was already existent. No one created God but God. Okay, so God, when God created heaven and earth was full of darkness and it was void. And the Spirit of God, its significance, there is significance of God's Spirit in his creation. Okay, you can say that God was meditating and manifesting first in the spirit, because we see here in Genesis chapter 3, when God said, which was what God first said, when he actually was, if he spoke this first, he spoke this word, let there be light, and there was light. This is basically the first thing that God said. He said, let there be light, and there was light. Okay, he spoke in the spirit, and when he opened his eyes and he saw, he saw that there was light, verse 4, and it was good. And what did God do? God divided the light from the darkness. Okay, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters. Okay, and let it divide the waters from the water. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. Okay, so God said in the spirit, let there be light, and there was light, and he saw the light. And we see here that the Spirit of God here is actually God. Okay, God is spirit, and if the topic that we're talking about here is basically understanding your identity as a child of God. If you don't understand that, as you know, as a child of God, in creating a relationship with the Father is you actually, you know, being present with God in your own spirit. You know, you can't actually, you know, meet God in the flesh. You have to be, you know, be in the spirit to actually experience his presence. Okay, I feel like that's what we often need to understand, that meditation is really important, because even when God was creating the heaven and the earth, it was in a form of meditation. Like he said he saw, and he saw that there was light, right? He saw there was light. It wasn't, it was a sudden, it was a phrase that was actually brought into the next verse. You know, he said let there be light, and he opened his eyes and he saw that there was light. So it was obvious that, you know, there was darkness happening, there was darkness in the world. And what happens when you close your eyes? There is darkness there. So when he opened his eyes, he actually saw that there was light. Okay, so it's very important as a child of God to always be in a form of meditation, to tap into the presence of the Father. I can't really exactly tell you like, well, this is how you should see yourself in God. I feel like it's something that's very personal for you to you know, to know for yourself. You know, because everyone is different. Okay, no one can exactly tell you, you know, this is who you are. If God exactly didn't tell you this is who you are. Even in the Bible says, when the Spirit of God was gifting gifts, it gave everyone, you know, different gifts. Okay, so we are different people. So you need to ask God to tell you exactly who you are in him. Okay, but first I feel like you need to really understand, you know, who God is, have a relationship with him. Number one way to go about it is by meditating on God's word. But we need to really understand from the beginning how everything started, right? So this is basically a foundation on, you know, really getting into deep, really in knowing who you are and who God is. This really set the momentum to help you to create a deeper relationship with the Father. Okay, we can go further, and it says, and God called the firmament heaven. So basically what happened was, you know, there was water, and he divided the water into two parts. In the middle is heaven, and he took the bottom part underneath heaven, the water underneath heaven, he shifted it to a side. Who knows, like maybe it's like two sides, we're not really sure. But in the middle he separated a space where he actually, you know, said it was, he said he separated a space for dry land, which he then called earth. Okay, so we're gonna see more. He said he called the firmament, God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together onto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, let the earth bring forth grass, and the herb yielding seed, and the first fruits, and the first tree yielding fruit after its kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass and herb yielding seed after its kind, and the tree yielding fruit whose seed was in itself after its kind. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the third day. And God said, let there be light in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. Okay, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made two lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. God set them in the firmament of the heaven to let light upon the earth, and to rule over the day, over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creatures that hath light, and fowls that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And God created great whales and every living creatures that moveth, which the water brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, fill the waters in the sea, and let fowl multiply in the earth. And the evening and the morning were the fifth day. And God said, let the earth bring forth the living creatures after his kind, cattle and creeping thing, and the beast of the earth after his kind. And it was so. And God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and the cattle after their kind, and everything that was creeping upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God said, let us make man, in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over all creeping things that creepeth upon the earth. Okay, I want you to actually let's analyze verse 24, when God said, this was the first thing God said actually, since he'd been creating the whole world. God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, the cattle and creeping thing, and the beast of the earth after his kind. And it was so. And then let's jump to 26, where he says, and God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let him have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over all every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Okay, so I really want to emphasize the word image and likeness. And I already said before that there was an audience while God was actually creating heaven and earth. There were heavenly bodies, there were cherubims. We see here even in the later chapter, we can even say like Jesus was present. There were, even while the birds and all of these things were present before man was actually created, correct? Okay, so here I want to actually emphasize, what does it actually mean, like the image and likeness? Like God is saying here, like, let us make man in our image, in our likeness. And we already see here that God had already created all of this creation, right? He's created the seeds after his likeness, the trees after yielding its fruit after his likeness, and all of these things after their likeness, right? And then God goes on to say, like, let us now create man in our image and in our likeness. And I want you to understand that all of God's creation understand his language, and God understands their language. So every time he's talking, even though you think that it's just a seed, he doesn't hear God, but it actually hears God. All of God's creation understand God's voice. Okay, the trees understand his voice and his instructions. If he tells the trees to move from one place to another, the tree is able to respond to the voice of God. Even the cherubims who are actually there to they're like is like part of his they're I wrote it here somewhere. So they're there to attend to God. Okay, I don't want to use the word servants, because I feel like they're higher. I would say that. But the image and the likeness here, we see that it's actually a nature of God. Okay, it's like this creation that God's creating is creating everything in his own nature. And I don't know if you watched the video on the anthropomorphism of the mission of the devil, when I was talking about the coyote not being able to create anything outside of his nature. God's nature, I feel like it's really important, because you were created of God, and God created you, and you are going to take his nature. Okay, so the nature of God from the Bible, as we've read it, is it brings forth fruits and seeds after his own kind. Okay, so God is a God where, like, when he created you in your own nature, like connected to him, right? So when you have your own child, you have your own genes and your own DNA. So you have your child according to your own kind. Even cattle have their own kids according to their own kinds. Fishes and all of the creeping things of the earth creates for themselves, through reproduction, however way they create after their own kind. Another thing that we need to understand is the image and likeness of God is order. And we see here how God segments everything, even in the way where he creates it brings every living creature should create things should bring forth fruits and seeds after his own kind, is some form of order and segmentations and classification already in nature. Okay. God also is light. So when he created the world, and the world was already like the way it was dark, it was void, that was the thoughts. God created earth. Okay, because I see that when God was creating, he was meditating and he was creating, and he said certain words. His spoken words brought out an activation, activated what he's been thinking in his head. So when he created the world was actually without form and void, and he started to speak into what he's created. So he created something through thinking, visualization, and then he started to speak into what is actually created. So now that's why I feel like it's so important that no matter what's happening in your life, or what you yourself have created with your thoughts, you can speak into your situation, you can speak into whatever that's going on, because you are of the nature of God. If God's done this in Genesis chapter 1, best believe that you can also tap into that power. And God said, let the earth bring forth the living after his kind. We talked about that. And God is light. We were saying that God is really light. Like he is light. Everything about him is light. Do you understand what I'm saying? There is a segmentation he does here, where he says, like, this light is gonna do this light is gonna do that, and we see that here in Genesis chapter 1 verse 14, where he